But I remember like I got ran over and then like didn't know what the heck happened because it happened so quick.
Yeah.
That I actually tried to stand up and walk to the sidewalk, and I made it probably.
So you actually stood up after that?
Yeah, I stood up and
wow.
I was like, "What the heck just happened?" Like,
yeah,
because initially
you're in shock.
Yeah, I didn't feel anything. So.
Welcome to the Shaw Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Shaw, and today I have got an amazing guest, Mr. Kevin Ferris. How you doing, buddy?
Great.
So Kevin, if you don't recognize him, has been really making some noise in the sport of strongman. 7th place at the 2020 World's Strongest Man. Last year, a big 4th place at the Shaw Classic in 2021. And I feel like Kevin's got a really interesting story to share with us today. I've kind of got tidbits here and there, you know, interesting, fun facts, and I'm excited to talk to you, man. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. This first podcast I've ever done. So
is it the first one?
Yeah,
man.
I've had a few things lined up, but just yeah.
So you get to share. We get to hear the story first. Is what you're saying
live.
That's awesome,
right,
man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So talk to me about growing up. I feel like growing up a lot of times can shape us into who we are and what we become and our mindset in certain aspects. So talk to me about your childhood. What was it like?
Actually pretty good. I have 3 older sisters, 1 older brother. So I was the youngest. So always picked on.
Oh, I bet.
Always picked on. But I feel like that kind of molded me. I mean, yeah, having an older brother and kind of being his punching bag.
And he was how much older?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
So did your sisters pick on you too, or was just okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah. not my 2 oldest, but yeah, the one that was just right above me. She was 4 years older than me.
So you got the brunt of all of that.
Oh yeah.
That's so with them picking on you, how did you respond to that? I mean, did you immediately want to fight back, or was it, you know, I mean, how did you take that?
I feel like it kind of molded me into wanting to be stronger and wanting to be more athletic, wanting, you know, kind of drove me to wanting to do, you know, sports. And yeah, my brother picked on me or whatever, but like I felt like I wanted to be him. I wanted to look up. I looked up to him. He was like one of the amazing baseball player.
Okay.
So just seeing like the road he took, yeah.
I mean, that example, it's interesting with him being, you know, that much older than you. I mean, it's almost like he kind of, in a lot of ways, maybe laid the framework for you, and you're like, hey, that's my older brother. You know, he's probably larger than life, I would imagine, you know, kind of saying, look at what he's done. And, you know, if he was into baseball, you know, did that make you want to play baseball, or was it, you know, what getting into sports, like what was that like for you?
So I kind of dabbled in everything. I mean, from soccer, baseball, basketball, football, I dabbled in everything until I finally found like something that I really, really loved, and that was wrestling. So I wrestled a lot of my younger years until that road kind of just dissipated, and then I didn't know what the heck to do.
Sure. So what age did you start wrestling, or what? I mean, were you kind of, you know, through, you know, say 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade, was that where you were kind of doing everything?
So yeah, it started 6th grade, and then it just gradually got up there. So,
and what made you want to wrestle? What was it about wrestling?
I feel like it was the one-on-one thing. I played baseball and I played football for, well, super young.
Okay.
So, but I didn't like I don't want to say I didn't like it, because there's good things and there's bad things about it, but like you're counting on someone else to do their job as well.
Yep.
So with wrestling, it was either you're either going to beat him or you're going to get beat. So it's either your fault or it's your fault.
Absolutely. Now, and I completely can relate to that because, you know, playing basketball was my main, you know, sport growing up and through, you know, through high school and through college. And, you know, you very much win as a team and you lose as a team. Yep. Now you have your responsibilities to handle within the game and you want to win your individual battle. Yeah. So whoever you're going against, you know, that's how I always kind of took it was, hey, that's my assignment. And if I handle that, I'm doing my job for the team. But at the end, if the score's, hey, we lost, it's still like, hey, I can't walk in there and say, well, you know what, I did my part. That was on you. It's collective, right? So when you're wrestling, it's very much a one-on-one match. Now, so you still get scored as a team, though, right? Yeah. You're wrestling as a team, but I feel like that's more individual, a one-on-one battle.
Yep. And that's kind of, trinkle down the line. After that ended, it was kind of like, shoot, like, what do I do now? Like,
so when did it end?
So senior year. So backstory, going into my senior year, I got in an accident.
Okay.
It kind of threw everything off, like my football season. And I played football and I played baseball to kind of just keep me in check, keep me on track.
So you did that all through high school?
Through high school, yeah. Okay. So I got a shoulder injury in that accident.
Now, was it a car accident?
Car accident, okay. Yeah. And it kind of threw everything off. Like going into my junior year, I placed sixth in the state in my weight class. And
so you're coming into your senior year thinking, okay, I'm going to be one of the top guys, or I want to be the top guy.
Yep. And it kind of threw me through a bind. You know?
So what happened with the accident?
So it was kind of a freak accident. During the summer, I was with some buddies. My buddy was in his dad's brand new Jeep, lifted, big Jeep.
Yeah.
And he was dropping us off, and I got out of the passenger seat and forgot a CD. And so I ran around to his driver's side, and he was backing up and didn't see me and was turning out of the driveway, and the wheel came out.
Oh, man.
Grabbed the back of my leg and just slammed me to the ground. So from my ankle all the way up the left side of my body. So broke my ankle, cracked my kneecap, broke my scapula all the way through. But I had a white shirt on, and the ambulance came or whatever and cut it off. But I actually had that shirt for a while, but you could see the tire tracks.
Oh my gosh!
Back of the shirt, and it literally was like 2 inches away from.
So it was just literally he was backing up and didn't realize what you were doing, and
just a freak accident.
Man, I bet he felt horrible.
Oh yeah, but the one thing that I really remember, because it was like the end of August, like the hottest time of the year, and I was laying there in the street on the asphalt and just like
burning,
cooking.
Oh,
but I remember like I got ran over and then like didn't know what the heck happened because it happened so quick.
Yeah,
that I actually tried to stand up and walk to the sidewalk, and I made it probably.
So you actually stood up after that?
Yeah, I stood up. And
wow.
I was like, what the heck just happened? Like,
yeah.
Because initially
you're in shock.
Yeah, I didn't feel anything. So I was like, what the freak just happened? Like,
yeah.
So, I stood up and tried to walk and just collapsed.
So did you have to go, I'm assuming you had to go into surgery then? Or how did that?
Fortunately, yeah. So they did some scans and stuff. There was a little bit of internal bleeding, but nothing too crazy.
So where did the tire stop? How far?
Ran over my shoulder. So it barely missed my head.
So the head, you would have been done.
Oh yeah, toast. Yeah.
Wow, that's
37-inch tire.
Ooh, that's something, man.
Yeah,
so you had injuries from your ankle all the way up to your shoulder.
All the way up. Yep.
Wow. So what was the diagnosis? Coming out of that.
So scapula broke all the way through, but they did a lot of scans on it to make sure that it was lined up correctly, and fortunately it did. So it fused right.
So you were able to just let it go and heal.
Yeah.
So did you have to be not moving around then?
Yeah. Well, so I was bedridden for about 2 weeks. yeah, healing. I mean, being that young, you heal pretty quick.
Bounce
so,
back. So
yeah.
what time of year, like before your senior year? Was it the summer? Was it?
Yeah, so this was like right after football camp. I think, 2 weeks later we were in school. So I missed the first 5 games.
Wow. Okay.
And even coming back, like it was still kind of just like.
I mean, that's pretty incredible that you were able to still come back and play.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
The road rash though, the road rash is actually the worst part because it was down to the bone on my ankle and on my knees. Like you could see the bone. Like it was.
So there's nothing like other than the broken bones you're healing from. There wasn't anything structurally they had to go in and do surgery or like anything like that.
No,
wow.
I was super, super lucky that. But yeah, so the doctor, he was just telling me like, I don't know how it's going to heal up. I don't know how the shoulder's going to be. And I was doing weight training. Like I started lifting, my freshman years when I started lifting like pretty like daily after school. I'd get in but I think without doing that, I think it would have been a lot worse. I had.
So you were already at that point you were strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, what was it like getting into training then? I mean, at that point, because I feel like that's a great starting point around the freshman year. And, as a, younger male, you're going through the changes. And, at that point, I feel like it can have such a benefit to your life. And obviously with you being in sports, what was the motivating factor to start training?
Being small.
Okay.
I mean, I was only 100 my freshman year. I was about 145 pounds, 140 pounds.
Okay.
So a smaller guy, but I just, growing up, you see all these magazines, bodybuilding magazines. You're like, wow, like I want to be like that, So it was kind of I wanted to look good, but I wanted it to benefit in the sports that I was in as well.
So there's a couple motivating factors then. It's like, hey, I want to start training. I want to look better, feel better, but also perform better with the sports. So when you got in the weight room, was it a immediate addiction?
Oh, it took off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you walked in there and you're like, okay, I like this.
Every day after school.
Okay.
Monday through Friday, I was in there.
Now, was that something you did by yourself, or were you doing it with friends or buddies?
Originally, it was just me, but then I found my group, and it was actually the lineman coach that was in there, Coach Pope. He's the one that really pushed me. I feel like he really saw potential in me, and it just took off. Like I was gaining strength like crazy.
So what did you go? You walked in there at 145. Did you start putting on weight pretty quickly?
Yeah. It's kind of now I don't really gain weight quick, but by my sophomore year, I was at 152. Junior year, I was just above 160, and then by my senior year, it was about 171. So
okay, so you're talking 30 plus pounds, like at that point.
I'm basing my weight off of what weight classes I wrestled in. So
sure. Now, did you ever have to cut weight for wrestling, or were you wrestling up?
I actually wrestled up.
Okay.
So I mean, because there's some good guys. There's a 3-time champion in the weight classes all coming up. So I was wrestling 171s at 150 pounds.
Giving up. Wow.
Yeah.
So if that guy's 171 and he might be cutting in from 180 something.
Yep.
That's impressive, man.
So, and even when in practice, like I was wrestling the bigger guys just because the littler guys just weren't giving me what
That's
I needed.
interesting. So just strength wise, you felt like you could handle that and you were perfectly fine.
Yeah. Just leverage strength wise. I was able to keep my own, I guess.
Yeah. So you come back from this accident, you've been training, you're strong, which obviously I would think helped with the recovery, coming back, bouncing back pretty resilient, obviously getting run over and, bouncing back from that. So you play a few football games your senior year, and then wrestling is next then.
Yep.
So how did it affect that? Or were you able to bounce back and be pretty good, or?
The shoulder kind of gave me a fit from the beginning. So just kind of working out the kinks on that. Ended up placing 5th that year.
Okay.
And not what I wanted, but
yeah,
because you see like the guys that you've beaten,
of course,
and then you get to stay, and you're like, I already beat these guys, and now I'm back.
Yeah.
But all in all, it was a good year.
Yeah.
For what happened, really, I mean, it was a good year.
Absolutely. I mean, this is, I feel like you get a lot of experience out of doing sports when you're younger and doing that, and the challenges and overcoming adversity and having to work through hard things like this, because especially at that age, I had a few different things that happened to me when I was in high school. One of the worst ones was I actually tore up my thumb really bad. So I tore the ligament off on my thumb. It happened. It was kind of a just messing around type of thing. One of my buddies threw like a baseball pass with a basketball, and I wasn't expecting it. And he kind of, called my name at the last minute. I tried to catch it, and it hit my thumb so hard and just pulled it back. But I didn't want to stop playing. So I remember I went into a doctor, and the first thing was, okay, you have to have surgery. The ligament's torn off. And I was like, well, I don't really like that answer. I'm going to go to somebody else, and luckily my parents supported me with that. And so I finally got to this guy that said, hey, look, the ligament's off, but if you tape it up and you can work through the pain and deal with it, you could play. And then we can do the surgery after the season, which that was the answer I wanted. So I liked that guy. And he ended up, you can see my scar there or whatever. And I got it fixed up and whatever, but that was my junior year of high school, and then I was able to come back and play. But you have to deal with adversity going through a situation like that. Same thing with your accident, and really bouncing back, being resilient, having to work through something hard, I think can also really mentally take you to the next level too. And I'm sure that, this is not what you want to have happen, certainly. And it impacted, I would assume, your football season and wrestling and everything else, but you came back from it. And I'm sure looking back now, you probably feel like you're stronger.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of going through something hard like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously it's a negative thing, but you have to look at the positive side of it as well. Like, did it build me up? 100%, because I mean, I wasn't going to throw away my last season.
No.
Just because this happened. Like, no, we're going to push through it, and we're going to perform as best as we can.
Absolutely.
With what's handed to us.
Yeah. So that wrestling chapter ends. You're done with high school. Where do you go from there?
So I looked at wrestling in college, and it was just kind of I feel like the schools like, back east and stuff, that they're a lot bigger at wrestling, but anything in Utah was not,
Did you go to a big high school?
It was decent size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, I don't know what, a 4A school. So,
is 5A the biggest? Was 5A?
5A was the biggest.
So you're the same as me. We were 4A, and it just was not quite as big of a school compared to some of the other 5A schools. Yeah.
Now they got 6A.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Man.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, the competitiveness, I feel like you're competitive, but I know for me going into playing basketball in college, it was kind of the same thing where it's like, hey, you played at a 4A school, not a 5A school. So I was kind of looked down upon because I wasn't at the 5A schools or didn't get that maybe level of competition, but I feel like it was still really competitive. And it's not your fault that, hey, this is where I grew up. And, I wasn't in the biggest, I guess, school district or whatever, so you're kind of at a smaller school, but did that door, was it potentially there and you chose not to go, or, I mean, how did that work out?
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel like that was the right route.
Okay.
but I was getting into MMA.
Interesting. Okay.
And it was a short-lived road. It's fun to punch people, but it's not so fun to get punched. So no, I did a fight. There I was actually still. Well, I just turned 18, so I was able to do it.
Okay.
But it was kind of like a rivalry fight. So it was like the surrounding schools. Like, so I fought somebody from a rival high school.
Did you know that person?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it was the school rivalry that okay.
So
I mean, it makes sense coming from a wrestling background.
Yeah.
That maybe you try to dabble in that a little bit.
Yeah, and it was fun, but it's a tough road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I dabbled in that. And
Did you win?
No.
Didn't win.
Okay. Yeah, I got into round 3 and was dominating. It was basically a ground game. I just went straight to taking him down.
Yeah. Well, that would be your background.
And went for my bad shoulder.
Interesting.
He put me in an arm bar, and that was
boy.
And I was like, yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So
did you do more MMA?
Yeah, I dabbled around. I did some jiu-jitsu stuff for a little bit, and then it's just like it's just I don't know, not ready for this yet.
Yeah.
So kind of took a year off.
Were you still training with weights at this point?
No, I kind of stopped everything.
Okay.
Just like whatever. Got in a relationship, and then that came to an end. And was like, all right, now I need to do something.
Yeah. So this is when you're 18, 19, 20 in there. Okay.
So yeah, and then I started. It's actually pretty funny. I actually got back into lifting, and I wouldn't say that I was out of shape, but I wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Do you remember P90X?
P90X, I do.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So I did the full 90-day thing.
You did?
Yeah.
I remember it being advertised. I definitely never did it.
Yeah. So I started there. I literally, that's where I started.
Okay.
I started doing freaking P90X every morning. And it was like,
what were your results like after 90 days?
I actually did get pretty shredded.
Did you?
Yeah.
Man, we need a before and after Kevin P90X advertisement picture.
I'm finding it. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was probably around 180, 190.
Okay.
You know, the only thing I didn't do was yoga.
Okay. Was that part of the program? Yeah. Was it? Man, shame on you.
I don't have enough patience for that.
Yeah.
You can only be in downward dog for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But then I finally I got a gym membership and was like, all right, time to get big. So let's go. So got a membership to 24-hour fitness, and things just progressively got better. I was getting strong, super strong.
Yeah.
And then
do you feel like when you were in high school and started lifting, compared, say, to your friends, because that's the best comparison, do you feel like you were stronger than them at that point? I mean, was it something that you just started walking in the weight room and naturally just felt like, hey, I start lifting and I can move more weight than my friends?
Yeah, because I was stronger than the linemen at the time. My senior year, even my junior and senior year, I had a 315 bench.
Okay.
About a 450 deadlift and a 500-pound squat.
And this is at 170, around there?
Yeah, about 160.
Which is, I mean, those kind of numbers, that's great.
So really I knew I had something, like being this light and
absolutely
strong. So
it's interesting you take that, and I feel like sometimes that happens out of high school. You just got to kind of find your way a little bit, and maybe dabble in this, dabble in that, and coming back to lifting, and you're saying, okay, at 20, I'm like, go time on getting stronger, and you're I'm assuming taking it more seriously then, where it's like that's part of your routine and you're making it happen.
Yeah. And there wasn't really back then there wasn't like social media and all this stuff. So like the only stuff you saw on TV was like you saw some you saw some powerlifting, some bodybuilding stuff, but you're like, I don't even know how to get into this.
Yeah. It's not a clear path.
No, especially with like World's Strongest Man. Like I remember being just little and watching Magnus and watching all, Bill Kazmaier competing and just like, how do you even, what?
Yeah.
Like just, but yeah. So I got pretty strong, man. I had like about a 650 squat, and this is at a commercial gym,
Absolutely. I'm sure people are probably taking notice of that.
Like what?
'Cause that's not something normal you would see there.
Because I was just over 200 pounds, then, and then actually my siblings introduced me to Van.
Okay.
Van Hatfield.
Okay.
And set up a training session with him. Like I even then, like I still didn't even know like what strongman was, what like the road.
With watching it, you brought up watching it when you're younger. I know for me, I was always fascinated with strength. I mean, is that something that was similar for you? It's and I feel like a lot of kids, this is true.
Yeah.
That you see something that's kind of superhuman and you're drawn to it.
Oh, 100%.
And it's, I mean, we're talking like Hulk and Superman. And that's just, it's such a cool thing to get into. And then you see something like World's Strongest Man, and it gives you a different perspective that a human being is doing this. I mean, is that something that clicked in your brain at a younger age?
It's real life. It's not like, it's not like the Hulk, or it's not like, like the Marvels. This is real life. Like you could actually be super strong.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what drove me. Is just like, I can get stronger. I can continue getting stronger. And,
so at 2020, so this is what, 21, 22, somewhere in there?
I think I was 24.
Okay.
24. So I was training pretty hard, just at the commercial gym for about 3-4 years.
And you were just going in there to train because it was fun, get stronger, or were you competing in?
I looked at doing bodybuilding, but it wasn't for me. I mean,
okay.
It's all based off looks, not strength, and I just like, this isn't the right road. Like if I'm working hard, to get strong, then I should do something that shows that off. Not.
So that's where you started looking more towards strongman.
Yeah. So even then I still didn't even know. Like I was just like, what? Like what is, how do I even do that? Like I'm from Utah. Like all these guys that I saw were like Europeans and the UK. Like I'm just like, there's not many. But so yeah, so I scheduled a training session with Van. And yeah, we hit it pretty hard, and I squatted 650, I deadlifted 650, and then my overhead was just over 300 pounds.
Okay.
And I think I was around like 220,
okay,
225.
Still great, man.
And he was just like, what are you doing? Like, no ifs, ands, or buts, you're doing this. Like,
okay,
you're going to come start training with me and you start doing this. So I actually give the start of my career all to Van, because Van's like the one, like,
he kind of gave you the kick in the butt.
Yeah, he's like, what are you doing? Like, you have all this strength and you're not doing something with it.
Yep.
I was like, well, I don't know what to do with it.
That's awesome.
So I just picked it up with him and started training with him, and I'm actually really grateful for him, because he not only did he see the potential, but he kind of brought in the reins a little bit, because like I just wanted more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So this was 2015. And he's like, we're not going to sign you up for a show. Like, let's train for a year, and then we're not going to dabble in any shows yet. So it was
interesting.
It was just pushing to train, learn all the motions, learn all the movements, equipment, and everything else. And then, yeah, so I had my first show, 2016, and I think it was Reno.
Okay.
Nevada's Strongest. Took first in that, qualified for nationals, went to nationals, won that, got my pro card at 105. It was kind of like a trifecta. So I went and got my pro card there. Went to USS, did the heavyweight show there, qualified for 105 Worlds Finland, went to Finland, won that, came home, did the Arnold's in 105 amateur, won that. And at that point I was just like, what's next? Like,
yeah. So this is, you went in at 105 kilos. So that's 231 pound weight class, which is lightweight with strongman.
Yeah.
And you're walking in. I mean, that's incredible, man. I mean, you're walking in and just dominating with these contests. And like you said, it's boom, boom, boom. And you're basically starting from a lower level. Okay, now I'm pro. Now I'm competing internationally. And it
hit so super quick.
That's impressive.
So,
I mean, I didn't realize that with you, that you had done, I know that you had competed, but to walk into those contests and just win your first time with all those things is really, I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it kind of, I was just,
because that's a competitive class.
Oh, it is. Oh,
absolutely.
Even now it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, those little guys are strong.
Yeah, little guys.
Sorry.
You know, I mean, it's, hey, you know, it is what it is. It's just, the perspective in strongman is different.
Yes.
It's very, very different, skewed from what's little and big and what's heavy and what's not heavy. Absolutely.
So yeah, moving forward, I was just like, well, I've kind of won everything and I haven't won any money. So I'm like, if this is something I want to do, like, because I was paying my way on everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because 105s, there wasn't that many opportunities like there is now. Like, I feel like it's kind of finally opening up. Like, but I was like, yeah, if I'm gonna continue doing this, like, and beating the crap out of my body, like, I've got to get something for it. Because a trophy and a bag of goodies isn't cutting.
No, yeah.
So I did some USS shows that actually qualified me for SEL, Strongman Champions League.
Okay.
And actually did my first, I guess, international pro show at 240 pounds.
So you started competing with USS as a heavyweight then.
Yep.
So you're open, you know, they do a 220 class, right? 220 and then it's open from there, or 240.
220, 300, and then
so basically you're 240 pounds and 300 plus.
Yeah.
So,
but it was actually a super heavyweight show. So the show that I did, it was the show to qualify. So you had to qualify for the SEL show, but it was a super heavyweight. It wasn't the heavyweight.
So you're super heavy.
Super heavyweight at 240.
Was there anybody even close to your weight in that?
No.
So everybody was 300 plus, I would assume, right? Or at least close to it.
Yep.
Wow.
So, and that's kind of how my journey's been in strongman. I've always been the lighter guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, so did my first show at 240 pounds and was like, took second. I went to Serbia and took second there. And then went to Carousel. Yeah. Took second there. And was just like, okay, like, I can hang with the big boys.
Yep.
So now we just need to start getting stronger and putting some weight on.
Yeah. What was it like for you getting that opportunity to travel internationally the first time? I mean, do you remember those first couple trips? What was it like packing your bag and saying, okay, I'm leaving the United States, I'm going to compete?
That was scary. Like, cause I went to Finland. I went by myself.
Yep.
You know, just figuring out, because I flew into Helsinki, then had to take a train, figure out what train I'm taking. No one spoke
It's
English.
very different. It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a fun show, though. Have you ever competed in Finland?
I've flown through there. I actually had a layover there, and I left the airport because I decided I didn't want to spend all day in the airport. And so I took a bus down to like Helsinki and walked around and got some food and then came back, which at that point, that was a long time ago. I was fairly new to travel myself internationally. So I felt like I was pretty proud of myself, actually, to be like, hey, I'm going to leave the airport. I'm going to go find this bus. I'm going to go down here. But I can't remember. It was at least 12 hours of layover where I literally had nothing to do.
Didn't know what to do.
So I went down there and I remember I can't remember if it was a McDonald's or something, but it was one of the only American type things that I could find there. And I ordered a drink, and you just assume in the U.S. you're getting a refill, you're getting unlimited, whatever. Nope. I bought that, and I said, hey, I want a refill. And of course, they didn't have the machines where you could just go fill it up. And I went back, and they said, okay, you can pay again for that. It was so weird, and the sizes were drastically different.
Oh,
very different. So you're used to United States. Here you order a drink, and it's like a massive cup. Over there, it's like, okay, here's your, it's not even a quart. It's just, glass. Here you go. Yeah. Here's your cup. That's a large drink. Thanks. Yeah.
Taking small sips for every
bite the American perspective. Very, very different. But yeah, man, that's, travel is crazy, especially when you're just starting out and you're trying to figure it out by yourself and going to these different spots. And then, like the trains here in the US, trains are not very normal. No. You get over there, you have to take a train, you have to go do this. And to get there it's very different. So, and then you've got, of course, the time difference and, dealing with a little bit of jet lag. So for you to show up to your first, international contest with SEL and do that well also is impressive, because a lot of guys have a hard time with that travel, getting out of the US and going over there and being okay to perform.
Well, everything's different. I mean, your sleep's off, food is huge. I mean,
big time. Yep.
You go to other places and you're like,
what is this? Yeah. You don't even know if you're eating. Yes.
This is questionable.
Questionable. It's a good word. It's a good word. Yeah. So. That's cool, man. So you are getting into, I would imagine that you gained a lot of confidence by going to those contests and saying, hey, I can hang here. I can, because Champions League, I feel like it's kind of an intermediate step. Yeah. It's you're kind of doing the nationals here in the US, and then you're taking that step to go to something before, say, World's Strongest Man or that level of contest. So it's a great stepping tool.
I think the route that I took was a good route too. I wasn't thrown in with the wolves and defeated. Like it wasn't like I hung in there. I built confidence, and then okay, so what's the next step now?
Yeah.
And do you get nervous? Like, do you get like growing up in sports? Like, oh man, like wrestling. Like right before I knew I was up, man, I just like stomach was dropped, super nervous.
Yep.
But I've never gotten that feeling, even being at Worlds and everything else. Like I've never. I think it's because I have confidence, like the training and everything building up, like you can do this weight, you can compete here. So I've never really had like that nervous feeling,
Yeah.
Which I'm thankful for.
Yeah. I mean, I think some nerves are normal, right?
Good nerves,
like yeah. And you can for a lot of competitors, I think those can be used in a positive way or a negative way. And unfortunately, I've seen it both ways. Yes. Where I've seen guys that are unbelievably nervous, and it literally will take them to the point they can't even perform.
Yep.
Right? Because they're whether it's self-doubt or just not being confident in what they can do, or going back and saying, hey, you know what? I prepared for this moment. This is where it's fun now. We got but having those nerves is normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think not having some nerves, but not to the point like you're saying your stomach's going to drop and it's, this
running
is
to the
crazy.
Bathroom and
yes. Yep.
Like,
exactly.
oh gosh, man.
You kind of feel alive. You kind of feel alive when you get that adrenaline rush. I've always loved that. I've always loved that with competing in whatever I've competed in. I've always enjoyed that aspect of lining up. All the hard work's been done. Let's go put it on display and have a good time. And, getting that adrenaline rush, I really like. But, I think it's good you're saying like, hey, I don't get to the point where even stepping on the biggest stage, I'm to the point I'm so nervous and almost panicking in a way where you can't step up and get it done.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I think
That's really good
because it shows you that training went really well.
Yep.
It shows you that you have confidence in yourself, and then I'm going to show everyone
what I can do.
What I can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's been a great road.
Yeah. So you go from there, and you're almost getting positive reinforcement along your path, right? Because as a 105, you're killing it, winning. Step into heavyweight. It's interesting to me that there wasn't a little bit more of a transition where you're showing up to compete as a heavyweight and, oh crap, this is another level. I need to step up. But it sounds like you were on a strength level where you could do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're coming in, you've got a skill set from competing as a 105 that's just transitioning over. And we'll talk more about this once we get, into this a touch more, but the size difference, like walking up, and I would imagine at 240, you're standing next to a guy that's 340. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
And you would think that you would be pretty intimidated.
Yeah.
But and I give it to my training partners. I give it to Van. I trained with the guy, Willie and Jordan, which they all three were like over 300 pounds.
Okay. So this is very normal from training too.
So yeah, even then, whatever, put the weight on, let's lift it. It was really good environment. They pushed me really hard. I give a lot of my successes to them.
That's awesome.
They pushed me pretty hard. So
yeah. So where did you get into the qualification for World's Strongest Man? So done with SCL, and you kind of, where did that door open, or how did you do that?
See, and that was kind of the hard part, because there wasn't a lot of opportunities back then, and it was just jumping through hoops to figure out how are we going to do this. So, and then OSG popped up, and I found out that the opening class got an invitation to North American Giants Live. So I was like, all right, we're going to bang it out. Let's do it. So top three at the OSG got an invite to Giants Live.
So this is official Strongman games for anybody listening.
Official Strongman games.
Yeah. So that gets your open door. So there's your path, right? So walking into OSG top three, you're into Giants Live North America at that point.
Yep. So took second at. It's actually pretty crazy because me and Trey Mitchell have actually taken the same road all the way up.
That's interesting.
We've So he did OSG with me.
And what year was that?
This was 17.
Okay.
2017. Towards the end of the year, I think it was in December. He took first. I took second. Then we had Giants Live the following year. I think it was in May. Took third there. Trey took second.
So that opened up the door, and then you guys are into
doors.
World's Strongest Man.
2019, we got our invite to 2019 Worlds, and yeah.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it's neat the path that you've gone down, because I feel like you've taken every step along the way and created your open door, right? Your way in. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to compete. I'm going to win. I'm going to perform, and then punch your ticket, so to speak, which is awesome.
And knowing that I started from where I started and worked my way up. There was no free handouts.
Absolutely.
That makes me feel good. You know, there was nothing handed to me. I worked my way all the way to Worlds from 220 pounds to
absolutely
here now.
No, that's awesome. So you're stepping onto the stage, 2019 World's Strongest Man. What was that like?
Then things started getting pretty crazy. Okay, now I'm on the big stage, World's Strongest Man. But I held my own. I had a tough group. That year.
Who was in your qualifier?
Kilikowski, Chalet.
Okay.
Me, Corone, and another guy from Norway. So it was a pretty stacked class.
That is really stacked. Yeah.
I feel like every year I've had this stacked group.
Yes.
Hey,
yeah.
whatever, you know. Ended up in third in my group, and went into Stones, which was a disaster. Never zeroed. I've never zeroed.
That's right. What happened?
So
because you didn't get one, right, or the tacky or something.
So it was in Florida, and
Okay.
it was hot. Like,
It was very hot. Yeah.
Very humid. And I've never used stone sleeves or anything. It was always just bare skin.
Yep.
And I decided last minute I was going to switch up tacky, and that was that. It was like butter grabbing that stone.
Oh, just like a grease pig.
Oh yeah,
literally.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
like literally, like what? Like I've never ever struggled. I mean, I think it was a 380 or 400-pound stone, which
Yep.
I knew I had for a few reps.
Yeah.
Just to, man, it was.
I mean, obviously frustrating.
Very, very, very frustrating. Like, just felt just like.
Because it was you and JF, right, in the stone off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just like, oh man. And then talking to like Martins after, he's like, dude, why didn't you use stone sleeves? And I was like,
yeah.
This is my first time ever having to, doing stones in humidity. Like, there's no humidity in Utah. It's dry.
Yes.
So
it's a different lesson, and a lot of people will not understand that.
Yeah.
And it's as hard as some of those lessons are, that you learn and you get better. Yep. Right. And I mean, even for me, and I haven't talked about this a lot, but I made a very, very critical error at World's Strongest Man last year, where I made the call. It was my call, right? And I did not clean off my stone sleeves, but I was training here in Colorado, and I was using a cool weather tacky here in Colorado. And I thought it was just a little bit of base on there. And I said, I think it's good. Let's just leave it. We'll put the hot weather on top of that. Well, it was 110 degrees last year in the final. And I walked out, and I had the right tacky. I had the right setup with the tacky and everything. And
but that was on top of the.
So I grabbed, the finals, that's what happened. It was like the perfect tacky on top of not the right tacky. And it was hot enough where that base just heated up, and I lost it. On the first stone, I grabbed it, and I was like, oh crap, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
Because the grip's not there anymore.
Yep.
Right. And I had trained, it was very disappointing, just like you, right? Because I had trained unbelievably hard on stones last year, because I knew that there was a chance it would come down to the stones, and I needed to be able to perform. But when you mess, that was an error on my part.
Yep.
And I can only, again, this is strongman. I can only look in the mirror and say, Brian, you really messed that up. But I can only take it as the positive out of it and say, hey, as long as I've been doing this, and as many times as I've got it perfect, this time I didn't.
You're still learning. You're
so
still learning.
So I completely, I can completely relate to that, man. And it was a tough one for me to swallow last year. But, this is your first year at World's Strongest Man. And, to come down to that and not be able to do it, I can imagine that fueled your fire a little bit.
Oh man,
going into 2020.
Stones has always been that in training it didn't always go great.
Yeah,
but when it needed to be,
you just stepped up in the moment.
Stepped up and it just happened.
Yeah,
Stones is one of those things you got to have a little bit of aggression. You can't go to Stones and just be like, let's.
No, not timid. No. You don't want to be timid. No. Yeah.
No, because it'll mess you up real quick.
Absolutely. You just have to attack it. Yeah. So coming off of that, your first year there, and that's how it ended, going back to training, where was your mind at?
I beat myself up pretty bad about that, because it's just like, you've hit this weight multiple times, and you've never changed your game. You've never changed anything last minute.
Yep.
And then I did, and it screwed me.
Yep.
So from here on out, whatever I do in training, that's what stays.
Yeah.
Always.
It's so funny you say that, because it's amazing to me the number of guys that will change last minute. They'll either change shoes, they'll change their setup, they'll change something they've done, and it's worked in training.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the competitiveness of a contest, and maybe you see somebody else doing something and you start to second guess what you're doing, and you have to stay in your lane and say, hey, look, I did this, it worked. Never ever change at the last minute. Yep. That's a very important lesson.
Yeah, you and when you get there, you kind of. I like to sit back and just kind of like watch what people are doing. Just like what's there, what are they putting on, or what are they wearing, what are they. But after 2019, it was kind of like a tunnel vision. Like, no, we're on this path. This is what we're wearing. This is what we're not changing anything up. Anything.
Yeah.
So
going in 2020, kind of a strange year for everybody, very right? Strange. And they bump back World's Strongest Man. It happens in November, later in the year, walking in, getting through all that. But it seemed like you walked into World's Strongest Man in 2020 ready to rock.
Yeah, because there wasn't anything. I don't think I did anything. I did a show in New York to qualify me for Arnold Spain. That was in February.
Okay.
So I didn't do anything
from February to November.
It was just training.
And that was kind of the same for everybody. It was, and we were all in the same boat, kind of, when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Whatever. So walking in there, though, I can imagine that making the final in 2020 was a big deal.
Very big deal. Yeah.
Because it's just your second year there, getting it through the group. What was that like?
So again, I had a pretty stacked group. I had Evan Singleton, Mark Felix, Adam Bishop, and Shivakov. I think it was
Might have been, yeah.
I think it was Shivakov. So another great group, and I had to just focus on every event by itself. So we're just going to attack it one by one. Don't think about anything down the road. And once that event's done, like, that's in the past. Like, we're not going to think about it anymore, and we're just going to press forward. So, ended up winning the group. Didn't have to do the stone off, which is great.
Way better, yeah.
Going into 2019, having to go to the stone off and just like seeing how brutal it was, I was like, we're not doing this.
Yeah,
we're not doing this. We're either going to win the group or no, that's the only way I'm going.
Sure. Well, and that's the stone off at World's Strongest Man is literally an entire different conversation in itself. It's something I've never agreed with. I don't think a lot of the guys agree with, and it's unique to World's Strongest Man. It's their choice, and it's the way that they throw it out. But it definitely changes the approach. And I think now, with the caliber of athletes that we have going to World's Strongest Man, letting the group play out and doing a normal set of stones at the end of the qualifiers would be very entertaining.
Yes.
It would be very entertaining. Yeah. And I think, now more so than ever, there are fans that want to see the group play out.
Yeah.
And let it happen, just like any other sporting event would be.
Was it 2000? When was Philippines? 18.
18, yeah.
They did that. They did the stone. They did the run.
So they did a run, but it was only the two guys that were in second and third. Yep. So it was a head-to-head run. Very much actually like 2020, where they lined up all the stones, but in 20 they just did it where it's one guy at a time. Yeah. So whatever. I guess third place had to go first, and then second place followed. In 2018 they did it where you went head to head. So a second, third, whoever won out of those two went through. But again, you're weighting one event more than others, and who's to say, for example, in a group where the person in fourth place is amazing at stones, it's one of their strongest events. If the group plays out and does the stones, they could end up in first, and the guy that's in second could end up in sixth, and your points all shift around based on that one event, just like a pressing event would be if somebody is amazing at pressing and somebody else is not.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't, like I said, I'm you know, kind of more of a purist when it comes to strongman, and you should be good at everything, right? So, you know, you shouldn't reward an athlete for being great at one event, right? If you're not well-rounded, you know, you could make an argument and say, well, why is, you know, like I just brought up the press. Why is the press not the last event? And that's where, you know, you go head to head in that. And so there's a whole different thing there. So, you know, and we could certainly have a different conversation, but, you know, I've said that before. And I think, you know, now more so than ever with the level of the athletes all getting better, you can play the group out normally and it will be exciting. It will be exciting. I mean, yeah, you could have one group that goes one way or the other, but very much like last year, there was a couple guys I think that went into the stone off that were banged up and weren't able to put on a great performance in the stone off. So that wasn't very exciting either.
Which any other time it would have been a good.
Yeah. But if the group would have played out, maybe it would have been a better spectacle, right? Or entertaining. And, you know, it's just whatever. We'll leave that. We'll leave that where it is. But
we'll leave that for another time.
Yeah. So 2020, 7th place, coming into 2021. Again, you get a tough group with World's Strongest Man.
Tough, yeah.
And you battled through it, man. I have to hand it to you. You did a really good job, I think, with the group and the events that were there. And what was your perspective with 2021?
You know, I got a lot of like, oh man, you got the death group, you got this. Oh man, you got Novikov in your group, you got Luke and you got Bobby in the group. Like, how are you gonna do this? And I'm like I would if anyone else was in my group.
Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't matter who's in my group. I'm still gonna perform to my best.
Absolutely.
Know? And I think that I did. You know, I think that. Yeah, there could have been a few tweaks here and there, but I mean, for the most part, I felt like I really held my own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, winning the first event kind of gave me a huge boost. But it literally came down to the line. I mean, me and Bobby did the Fingal Fingers together, and they had to literally go back. It took 20 minutes to find out who's hit first. I mean, it was like
video review
to the point where it was like millisecond of like Bobby won me, like beat me.
Yeah.
And then it went into deadlift, and we had a 3-way tie on deadlift.
It was a close. You guys were really close the whole way through.
Had 3 of the fastest times on the press medley.
Yep.
Like group 5 and having the 3 fastest times out of all the guys was just like.
This is, you know, that how it's so funny how that sometimes happens at World's Strongest Man, where you end up with a group, and the common thing to say is, well, geez, if I would have been in this group, I would have won that. And it just, the way that they do the qualifying rounds, it just sometimes, unfortunately, I've been there before, believe me. It's like you've been in a group and it's like you look across and I would say to myself, well, geez, if I would have been in that group, it would have been way easier. But instead, I'm in this group, and it doesn't matter like going across, because you have to focus on, like you said, you got the guys in front of you. You handle what you can in front of you.
Exactly.
And but you guys were, you know, I mean, it literally came down to the wire, you know, because you guys did the pickaxe, the front hold.
Yeah, pickaxe. Let's see, Luke and Novikov were tied. Me and Bobby were tied. There was literally 1 point between
4 of you, right?
Yeah.
That was crazy, yeah.
And it came down to the pickaxe, literally. And that was, you know, whoever wins the pickaxe, that's who's going in, and the other 2 are going to stones.
And you performed well in that.
Yeah, so I think I took second in that.
Yep. Because Bobby won, right? Bobby won he went through.
Yep. Bobby won the group.
Yep.
I took second, but it tied us up. It tied us up with me and Luke. So Luke was in second. I was in third.
Yep. And so that I remember I was actually explaining, or Novikov didn't quite understand at that point that he had got beat and was not going to go into the stone off.
Yeah.
And was disqualified. So I remember it just, because that's a tiebreaker, right? That's that last event before the stone off is a tiebreaker. So whoever places better there goes into the stone off or wins the group however it plays out.
Which a lot of people didn't get. Like, that was the tiebreaker on who's going where.
Yeah.
So.
This is, again, you have to know going into Worlds, like, these are the rules. This is how it's going to play. And so, understanding that. But you go into the stone off, and I feel like this is something you'll probably remember for a long, long time, this stone off. And there's certain moments in your career that just, for whatever reason, they stand out.
Yep.
Right. And I remember watching, so it's you and Luke Stoltman going through the stone off.
Yep.
And it came down to the wire, man. You both are on the last stone.
460, both hitting it for 2.
Yep.
I mean, it was a battle. I literally, and it took me a while to watch the video because I can imagine. I was so irritated, so pissed off. Not at Luke, but just like,
of course,
literally, it's in my hands. I get it over. I'm going to the finals.
Yep.
And seeing, like, slowing it down and seeing that I was literally like an inch away from, like, it was just about as close as you could get and without doing it. And me going to push it, and the mat, I could feel the mat slipping on my back foot.
Wonderful.
So it was just like, and I told the guys after, I said, you guys can't have these little square mats anymore.
Yeah.
You have to have a full mat, because the square mat, like, they're not even.
Well, that's the way that you went down too is, again, safety.
Yeah.
You need to have a good setup for that, for all of it. So, but you get done, and I feel like everybody watching, it just was like, if you put that over, and again, who knows what Luke could have done, but it very much looked like if you could have put that over, it would have been whoever could do number 3, and you were going to do it first.
Yep.
And if you could have done that, potentially that would have been your ticket in.
Yeah.
So ending again, kind of, going back to 2019, ending that stone off that way. This one's a little bit more, hurtful, I guess, probably stings more because
I don't know
of
which one hurts worse. I really think that one does, because, I mean, like in 2019, I didn't even pick it up. So it's just like, this is a whole different feeling.
I would say, if it was me, I would say 21 would eat it. It would eat at me more. Literally, for sure.
Just like an inch. If I just push it over, it would have been.
Yep. So now 2022, training for World's Strongest Man, the build up, right? How much have you drawn from that stone off? And I'm assuming that's been a major motivating factor here.
Huge. My mental game has really gotten better. I feel like that I'm on, like, a really good track right now. I mean, coming off of last year, Worlds went really good. And then doing your show, I mean, I was actually talking to JF about it, and he's like, I think that this is the heaviest show I've ever done.
Yeah.
And to hear that from JF, you're like,
JF's done a lot of contests.
And a lot of heavy contests.
Yep.
And for him to say that show is the heaviest, I was like,
yep.
Oh, shoot.
That's very much by design, but the Shaw Classic in my mind is set up to test the athletes over 2 days. You can't have any weakness.
No.
Right. So we're going to test everything. Whereas my argument, I guess, would be to anybody, a 5-event show or even 6 events, you can definitely get away with not being good at something.
Yeah.
But if you do 8 events, 10 events potentially would be better, but 8's perfect, I think. And everybody gets to come in. So you have more athletes, you have more events. If you have weaknesses, you can't win over 8 events. Or you can't perform well, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's not necessarily I think everything combined is very heavy and hard, but it's not one event that's heavier than another event or something. I think
it was all very calculated out. I feel like the weights were nothing was heavier than another. Like, everything was like pretty,
sure.
But
that's all. I mean, JF has talked to me about that too, not that specifically, but with the contest, and made some different comments, which, coming from a guy like JF, like him and I have competed for so long together, you know, whatever he says in my mind carries a lot of weight.
You really take it.
Exactly.
Really take, oh,
yep. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool. But for the way that you performed there was awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So that had to make you feel good.
Yeah, yeah, and coming off of Worlds and like really like hunkering down and being like, okay, well, this is my next show. Like this is, at the time, it was my last show for the year. So I'm like, I'm gonna go all out. Like training's gonna pick up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna bring my game this year. So taking fourth at your show was really good. Like I think I was 3 points off from JF.
Probably it wasn't far. Yeah.
So knowing, you know, where I am, where I line up, really felt good.
Yeah.
And then I got a call literally like, it was like probably 3 weeks out from a Giants live show, the first Giants live show in Scotland. Like, all right, like,
let's do it.
Let's do it. And then taking fourth there. So I felt like I was in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, going back to, I want to touch on just a little bit the mental side of this game, right? And I feel like a lot of people potentially with you might be able to relate a little bit more to your size, right? So for me, I've always been, you know, bigger, heavier, taller. That's just kind of been the frame that I've worked with, right? And again, you have to, with the interesting part with strongman is you can have two guys sitting here and you're, you know, whatever you are, 280, maybe somewhere in that range.
Yep.
And if I'm at 420, but we're still competing, we're still lifting the same weights, you have to use your body the best way you possibly can, the same that I do, right? And that's what I've always found fascinating about the sport of strongman is it's not a weight contest, right? It's a strength contest.
Skill.
Yes. So you walk in, but mentally, how does that work in your head? Like, you know, do you ever think about it? Did you ever think about it size wise?
No, and I think it goes back to training. You know, training with these bigger guys. I wasn't too worried about how much I weighed. I mean, it was kind of like when I was younger. Yeah, it was kind of like a having smaller calves and like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did get to me a little bit, you know.
Sure.
But then seeing my performance and seeing me getting stronger and seeing that, hey, like, yes, weight does move weight, but having the right mindset, that can also, you know, change the game up a lot too.
Big time.
So, and I think you can relate with that. I think that the mental game, yes, you have to be strong.
Yep.
You have to be strong in this sport, but you also have to be mentally strong as well.
Yep.
I mean, without having those two, it's going to be a hard road.
Yes.
So
no, absolutely. I mean, what have you done to, you know, through your career, other than training with the guys that you have and kind of having that experience in training where it's just about the weight, right? Like you're lining up against somebody who is 300 pounds or more or whatever. And it's about how much weight you're moving and you're expected in that group to lift the weights, and nobody's probably giving you a pass at all about like, oh, well, Kevin, you don't weigh as much. You don't have to lift as much. No, you want to compete. You're going to have to lift as much or more.
Yep.
Right. And so have you done anything to train that mental aspect?
So I think, yeah, I mean, obviously like my wrestling background too, because I was wrestling guys that were 20 pounds heavier than me. But then also my stepbrother, Jeff, he's done a lot of work on mindfulness and meditation stuff. And whatever, it sounds quirky, but like,
yes,
it works for me because he has taught me how to tune in when I need to, and you know, it's like a light switch. You don't want it on all the time.
Yep.
So when you're not competing, you need to learn how to just kind of relax and sit back and just, you know.
I think you do really well with that.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm I've been around a long time now with competitions, and I'm kind of the same way, right? Like I know when to turn it on and when to turn it off, and we'll also sit back and watch. And I feel as though some of the guys that haven't been there for a very long time, they get very nervous. Mm-hmm. They want to pace around. They put out a lot of energy outside of competing.
Just not being able to just sit back.
Yeah.
Just like,
and you seem, it's interesting that you're saying this to me, because you always seem like, okay, I'm just going to sit down. I'm got my bag. I'm good. You know, and I'm kind of chilling. I'm ready to go when I'm ready to go.
Yep.
Right. And I think having that quality, especially for a contest like World's Strongest Man, is very good, because there is sometimes a lot of waiting and a lot of time in between and time down. And there is some setup, and there's some, you know, times where you can't be dropping energy that isn't going toward competing.
Exactly. 100%.
So no, that's interesting. So he's helped you to kind of tune that in a little bit more.
Tune it in and use the energy when it needs to be used.
Okay.
Like a light switch.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually did see that in you yesterday. Like, we trained yesterday, and you know, we were sitting there joking around and having a good time.
Yep.
And then as soon as that weight's on and the belt's coming on, it was just like, you could see it in your face. I'm sure you saw the same thing in my face. Like, no, it's time to bang. Like, it's time to go.
Absolutely.
So it's learning how to tune into that, and being ready when you need to be ready.
Yeah. It's cool, man. It's cool to hear you talk about that. And it's interesting to look back on all of the different experiences you've had, you know, and, you know, whether it's the wrestling background or training or, different life experiences and, you know, things that you've gone through, because you still work right now, still work full time. Yep. You're a dad, you're a husband, you're all these different things, right?
Yep.
And you have to be able to be in that moment for whatever it might be, right? So you're at whatever moment your kids are the most important, or training is the most important, or spending time with your wife is the most important, right? Like all these things. And that's very much something that I have talked about and that I have to do. And we were kind of talking about that a little bit yesterday, where life can come up, right? And you have to work around it. But there might be times, I think you said to me, hey, there might be times where I get in the gym at 9 o'clock after work and I had something else come up and I had to handle it. And at those moments is where you separate yourself, because it's not easy, right? And so there's a lot of times where I guarantee that you have had to make hard choices. And it's much more comfortable to say, hey, man, today didn't go good. I don't feel like it, whatever. And then don't go. But instead you've gone. And I can tell that you have that mental capacity to work hard when you need to work hard.
Yes. It's funny that you say that too, because like the days where I don't feel right, or I feel tired, or I'm off, or those are some of the best training days.
Yep. Like
literally, like some of the best. Like if I wouldn't have came, I wouldn't have been able to see that I can push through this and have a great session.
Yep.
You know? Potentially even PRing, you know, like,
yeah.
Okay, I feel like crap because I worked a 10-hour day and whatever, I didn't eat my meals, or I didn't, you know, today's just not going to be a good day. And then showing up and pushing myself even harder and finding out that, like, no, it was a great day.
Yeah. And two, you're moving forward, right? Yes. That's the way that I've always thought to myself when I've had a tough day, a challenging day, you know, maybe things aren't going right or whatever, and you still go get it done. So it is ironic that some of those days are the best days, but also if they're not the best day, the way that I've always thought to myself is I've got two choices. I can either go in and do something that will get me further forward, or I can not go and then I stay the same, yeah, or go backwards, right? So I would rather go, and sometimes those hard days can lead to the awesome days too, if you go do it, right? But so many people out there, and I don't know if it's social media related or what it might be, where they need to post about it, they need to talk about it, and it's maybe driven by that and in some capacity, but also you have to make hard choices and do hard things when people aren't looking.
Yep.
Right. And that's where I get that with you a lot, where you're not a guy that posts a lot. I think you're going to do more of that and kind of get into it a little bit more, which will be great. But it's interesting getting to talk to you and be around you and, get your perspective on different things, because you are a guy that I can almost say with certainty, after being around you for a couple of years, right? If Kevin's not posting, I know that Kevin's working hard.
Yes.
Right. Yep. Whereas some of the other competitors, potentially, if they're not posting, I would maybe question whether they're working hard, because they're so into sharing what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Right. So, sometimes it's just a different perspective. It's a different perspective, but it's interesting. And you've shared a few things here and there and whatever, but is that something that you consciously do where you don't share, or is it just you're busy and
it's just
don't care to put it out?
Just busy with life. I mean, working a full-time job, and then I got to play dad
mm-hmm.
and keep the wife happy, and then everything else in between that,
Absolutely.
So it's definitely finding time for every single one of those.
Yeah.
Everything has to have the right amount of time.
Yep. And the sacrifices have to be made.
Yes, 100%.
Yep.
There's been times where I got kids that are having games on my training days.
Yep.
And exactly, like I'm not getting into the gym until 9 p.m., but the work still needs to be done.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what time it is, and does it suck? Absolutely. But if I don't go, then what?
Yep.
Even if I'm progressing even 0.5%,
yep,
it's still progressing forward. Where if I didn't go, like you were saying, if I didn't go, then am I taking steps back, or
yep.
am I?
Well, if you didn't go, potentially that stone doesn't go over that bar this year, right? And that day could be the difference. It literally could be the difference.
That's crazy you say that, because that's literally my mindset. Like, if I don't come today, this could be potentially the day that sets me apart from going to the finals.
Yes.
So I don't feel like a lot of people get that.
No.
Because we're on just a different.
Yep.
Our brains are.
No, believe me, man. If anybody gets it, I get it, and I think that's the fun part of doing this type of thing, where you can do a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of people out there that do podcasts and talk, but very often the person doing the podcast hasn't, especially if they're talking to athletes, they haven't necessarily been on that level themselves. And so if you haven't been there yourself, how would you understand? Yeah. Right. So I could sit here and talk to you and say, hey, Kev, this and that's really interesting. But I know how much I would fixate on that stone not going over the bar. Right. And I know that you do too. Yeah. And that will drive you, but it'll drive you let's look back at me. 2010, South Africa, World's Strongest Man, first event of the final. I'm doing a loading race through water with bags filled with gravel, right? And I had trained unbelievably hard for that moment. Came in, was going to win the event, should have won the event, right? And just didn't push the bag on, but it was filled with water and gravel, so it fell off. Normally a bag would stay there, right? But that moment has driven me through my entire career.
And it probably still drives you.
It still does. Absolutely.
Especially when the video pops up here and there all the 100%. Time. It's just like it brings like that fire back. Like,
yep. And at certain moments when I need to dig into that, I will. Right. And so that's why I was saying to you, like that stone not going over, these are the type of moments that you will remember and will drive you too. Yep. Right. And so you fixate on these things. Now, that feeling, the emotion, all of that packaged you can use in a very positive way, or a very negative way, right? And I feel like you're taking it in a very positive way, and it'll be a motivating factor that can be really, really good. And I've tried to do the same thing with myself, because if you think of it in a negative way, which, you know, in all fairness, that moment for me and other moments too, I've had a lot of them where things could have played out differently and changed. And that, I mean, going back, and I even shared right now, I don't know if I've even said that before, about the mistake that I made with the tacky on my sleeves and the setup and all that from Worlds last year. I mean, will be a defining moment that I've thought about, and it's motivated me a lot this year, you know, in the same thing, because, you know, I underperformed, and I underperformed because of a mistake that I made that I can only put on my shoulders. Right. So,
well, you wouldn't think that one little mistake you made would cost you a title.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't clean off old tacky. You know, like.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say last year, because obviously Tom is great with stones.
100%. Nothing to take away from.
Yeah,
Tom,
yeah. It would. I was prepared to do something really good there, and I had trained like week in and week out, and just that one call, and it was my call. The thing is, too, is Andy was with me, and he's like, "Hey, man, I think we should clean these sleeves." He even said it. And I said, let me look at him. Oh, I think it's all right. Right. And just in that moment, it was enough where that was the wrong call. Yeah. But I'm so frustrated with myself because of how long I've done it. And I should know better. With 100 degrees outside, I have remnants of cool weather tacky on my sleeves. But again, these moments, it's so interesting as you go back, and, you know, maybe for you, it's that car accident where that, you had to fight back from that, or maybe it's the stone not going over the bar, whatever it might be, right? These moments can drive you in a different way, and so you take a moment like that you learn from, and this is just in life in general. I mean, anybody listening may have a different moment. It may not be sports related, but it may be where you maybe didn't get the job, or you need to work a little bit harder, whatever it might be, right? And you can take that and apply it to your own life. And maybe it's not understanding necessarily the competitive nature of what we're trying to do in a very extreme sport, but it's trying to be better in life. It's trying to be better, you know, in your day-to-day, whatever's going on, and trying to be the best that you possibly can be, and using whatever you've got going on as a motivating factor for you, and setting goals and visualizing where you want to be and what you want to do.
Well, and I've really stuck to it, especially this year. That's just how the world is and everything right now. You know, there's so much negativity out there.
100%.
So much negativity. And I had to change my mindset on, like, you know, with every negative, there is a positive. And it's up to you to find the positive in that, you know. Yeah, that stone didn't go over.
Yeah.
And that is a negative thing. And I was very negative about it. But at the end of the day, what positive can I get from it? Oh, we're gonna push harder, even harder now, so that this doesn't happen again. Or that, you know, just even in life. Okay, you didn't get the job. Okay, well, it wasn't meant to be. There's definitely something. I feel like this happened for a reason. There's something better out there.
Yep.
I didn't get that job because there's probably something better out there.
It's a winner's mentality.
Yep.
Right. And you can have a winner's mentality, certainly when it comes to sports, but also in life.
Yep.
Right. It's a champion mindset on a day-to-day basis, where you're willing to do the things that others won't on a day-to-day basis. Right. And pay that price. And I think that's really interesting with you, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting here talking, and we're talking about all this, and I am very much feeling like I want to go train, you know, yes. Like just talking with you, and I'm bringing up these moments for me, and I'm almost getting antsy. I'm sitting here and I'm literally almost getting antsy, because I know that when I talk about those things and think about them, where it puts me in my head,
there's
right?
Still fire. There's
exactly.
Still fire,
yeah. And that's exciting. It's really exciting, and it's cool to hear you talk about these things and what, you know, is motivating for you. So what are your goals? What are your goals going forward? What are you focused on? Like, you know, whether it's World's Strongest Man, 2022 here, or it's your life or anything else?
I think it's just getting better, you know, I love the route I'm going, like knock on wood, but I have never like been severely hurt in this sport. I feel like I'm doing things right. I feel like I'm progressing at a great pace, to the point where it's not hindering me. So yeah, obviously just getting better. Like I do get crap a lot because I'm too humble. But I think that staying humble is a very important thing, especially in this sport. You can be shut up real quick, you know, real quick.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, just pressing forward. I mean, just being a good dad, being a great father, being a great husband, and just moving forward and progressing in everything.
Yeah.
You know, just not just strongman, but I feel like strongman has made everything better. I feel like the trials and the push and the everything that comes with strongman has made everything else in life, like, not necessarily easy, but a different vision. Like, I can get through this. Like, I can get through anything.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
I feel like you can agree with me on that. Like strongman, when you're in your younger days, like it has just built your life up progressively better and better and better. I mean, to the point where you life's good.
Yes, life is good, man. And when you're going through and competing, it's hard, right? And training on a daily basis is hard.
Yes.
And overcoming adversity is hard. And all of these things are hard, but like you said, it teaches you what is hard and what is not hard. And it's one of the reasons, and I brought this up a lot, but I think that every normal person should train, because with training, you can set goals for yourself and you can overcome adversity and you can deal with challenges, and it will carry over to your life.
Oh yeah.
In a very, very positive way. So when, for us going through the extreme of training for something as big as World's Strongest Man, it's quite a battle. But when you've gone through that battle, you can deal with a lot of adversity very well. And mentally you get stronger, physically you get stronger, and the carryover is there.
Yes.
There's no doubt that the carryover is there. So I couldn't agree with you more, man, on that. I mean, and, hearing all of these things with you, I feel like we're very much, I can see where you're at mentally and on your path and all that. And, I'm excited to see you grow, man. I really do think that you've got a great, opportunity this year to come in and set the stage with World's Strongest Man, put on a really good performance. And, just training with you yesterday, I feel like you're in a good spot, coming in and dialed in.
Yeah. I think we're in a really good spot right now. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for you, man. I feel like you're walking in a good headspace. I feel like I'm getting a really good energy, like off of you going into the contest, and that's huge, a great platform to start from.
Yes, good vibes.
Good vibes, man. Good vibes. So, if people want to check out Kevin Ferris, where do they go?
KF_strongman, and then
and that's on Instagram.
That's on Instagram.
Okay.
And then, I'm actually starting a YouTube.
Starting a YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, just Kevin Ferris.
Okay.
I put my first one out, and I feel like I got a pretty good hit. I feel like being my lighter weight, I think that a lot of people can relate to me, and the things that I'm going through, trials and everything else. So yeah, I just want to share my life and share my.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that, man. And like you said, you're a humble guy, hardworking, humble guy, and I think that a lot of people can relate to that. It's especially with you kind of walking into the land of the giants, so to speak. It's the giant killer, and seeing you compete against really big guys is it's something, man. It's something where, I think people love watching that, and I hope that they will support you with that and kind of follow along your journey, and you get to share what you're going through and hopefully inspire some people along the way.
That's the plan.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, brother, and we got some more training to do while you're out here, and keep, we're going to keep going down the road here, getting ready for World's Strongest Man. But I'm glad to have you out. I'm glad that this was the first podcast you ever did, and I feel like
you did all right. Yeah.
I think you did fine, man. I think I think a lot of people are going to find really cool things to take away, from this today, and that's really what it's all about, right? Is trying to spread a positive message and for you to obviously get to share your story and it's something I've always really wanted to do, but this is cool to, have guys come out and get to, share what they've gone through and their experiences and hopefully people listening can relate to some of these things and use it in a positive way in their own life. And we all collectively get better, right? At the end of the day, that's really, what I would love to see and try to help people with and whatever. So this is awesome, man. And for anybody listening, if you got something out of this, if you enjoyed it, please share the show, because that's ultimately how we're going to be able to grow the podcast even bigger, is by people sharing it and talking about it and obviously tuning in and listening and enjoying the content that is coming out. So I hope all of you are doing amazing. For now, go out and be great, and we'll check you guys later.